Okay, I think we're live. Awesome. We're doing. Can you see us on YouTube? Not yet? Okay. Let's give it a second here, see if any other viewers join us. You guys are here and watching. I'm Lauren from SpinFX. Thanks for joining us. We're going to get started in just a minute. Cool. All right. I think we're good to go. So welcome everyone to the first webinar that we're hosting, which is Introduction to Your Phoenix Hoop, Tips and Tricks. Yay, we're excited to show you the ins and the outs of the Phoenix Hoop today. Since it is a very advanced hoop, there are a lot of features to learn about, and we want to be able to help you understand it fully so that you can know the ins and the outs on the go. Okay, so let's get started. Yay. I'm going to take you on a quick tour of the Phoenix Hoop first. Okay. Here's your hoop. We have the power button right here, this little blue button. We have the USB port, this little hole right here where you will connect it to your computer and you will also charge it. We have a little silver push button on the inside here, and that's what's used to open and close the hoop. We'll show you how to do that in just a second. Okay. Also want to show you the charging unit. Has two little holes in it. You can use either of these to charge the hoop, it doesn't matter. Also comes with a USB cable, which you will use either to plug into the charging unit to charge your hoop, or you will plug into your computer to upload and take away patterns, change your settings, etc. And then finally, we give you two SpinFX remotes with the hoop, and we're going to walk you through all the functions and features of this hoop as well. You can see little IR remote here. Okay. So, first I'm going to show you about opening and closing the hoop for travel. It's good to keep in mind that these hoops really should only be kept collapsed when you're traveling or when you're shipping the hoop. Because of the sensitive components inside the hoop, you don't want to keep it collapsed for extended periods of time. So usually I use something like a pen, like this, to open my hoop. And a little trick that I like to do is I put the hoop under my arm like so, and I use my blunt object to press down on the silver button as I pull the hoop apart. Comes apart pretty easily there. Okay, so that's one way, and then you're going to simply coil the hoop down like so and connect it with either Velcro straps or ribbon or electrical tape, whatever you prefer. Now another really cool trick I want to tell you about is for closing the hoop, because this silver push button, okay, here, an easy thing to do instead of using your finger for the silver push button is to push it in the end of the tubing first and then connect it that way. That way you don't even have to use your fingers at all. It goes in really easily. So there you have it, opening and closing your Phoenix hoop. Okay. All right, now turning on and off the hoop, we're going to go to the power button here. To turn it on, you press the hoop one time, okay? But to turn it off, you have to hold the hoop down for 2 seconds. Boom, 1, 2. And the reason we did that is actually for a lot of performers out there, some LEDs turn off in the middle of performance if you slide your hand over the power button or you hit it by accident. So this was a really cool feature that we came up with in order to make sure that the hoop doesn't turn off while you're performing. So we thought that was really cool. I wanted to share that with you. Now the other way to turn the hoop off is by using the SpinFX remote. So this red power button, we're going to go into a little more detail in a moment, but this will save the settings that your hoop is on, and it will put the hoop into sleep mode. So you can turn the hoop off with this. You cannot, however, turn the hoop on with the remote you must turn the hoop on using the power button on the hoop. You can also turn the hoop off via the Android app, which we will go over with you as well in a second. Okay, so let's get to the remote features. So as I said, this red power button up top here, what it's going to do is save your settings and put the hoop into sleep mode or turn it off. So say you're out and about and you have the hoop on autoplay off and it's on your favorite pattern and you want to keep it on that pattern, you can put it into sleep mode by pressing this red button. So when you turn the hoop back on, it'll save those settings and it'll go right back to your favorite pattern for you. The yellow and orange buttons here will either go forward and back through your patterns while the hoop is in autoplay off mode. So when the hoop is in autoplay off, it means that it is staying on one single pattern, as opposed to autoplay on mode where the hoop is progressing through all of the patterns that you have loaded onto it. So you can choose if you want it autoplaying or not. And if you have it on autoplay off mode where it's just on your single pattern, these two buttons will take you forward or back and then stay on whichever pattern you choose. Okay. And this green button here in the center is actually the button that toggles between autoplay on and off. So if you're in off mode where you just have it on your single pattern and you decide you want to just have it scrolling through all of your patterns that you have loaded, you press the green button once, you'll see it flash. That means that it heard your command and that it will go into autoplay on mode for you. So you could do that back and forth as many times as you want. Then we have the blue and the purple buttons, right and the left down here. And those are your brightness controls. So if you want the brightness turned up, you press the purple button. If you want the brightness turned down, you press the blue button. And turning brightness down saves battery length. So if you know you're going to be out for a long time and you want to just extend the life of the hoop, you just turn the brightness down a bit and it will help out. And then finally, we have our pink button on the bottom here, which is our battery level indicator. And what you could do is press that pink button when your hoop is turned on, and the hoop will light up and show you a percentage of the battery that's remaining. So let's show you a little quick example here. So I have my hoop on, and I'm going to press battery level indicator, and it's showing green all the way around because it's fully charged right now. And then after a few seconds, it goes back to its pattern. So that was also a feature that we thought would be really helpful for everyone when you're out and about. And do I have to charge my hoop before I go out tonight? So that's why we're doing that for you. Okay. So another quick thing about the remote is you will see this red IR response light up if you have a good battery in there. If your battery is dying, that red light will not be on, and that shows you that you need to change your battery, which is the 3-volt CR 2025 battery that you can get really easily to change. Okay. Let's see. Another thing I wanted to let you know about is that when you press the buttons on the remote while your hoop is on, you will see the hoop like flicker or response, and that means that it is receiving the signal from the remote. So that's a completely normal thing for you to see. And one last thing to mention, that the remote settings can actually be changed manually in the settings file. It's something that we don't suggest everyone just start doing. You have to kind of have an understanding of how that would work, but there are instructions in our advanced configuration tutorials on how to do that. So that would be like, for example, if you wanted to change the functions, if you wanted to do scripting mode, that's one thing that you would have to do as well. And we'll get into more detail about that in the next webinar. So I want to talk really quickly about charging the hoop. So a couple things. First off, when the hoop's battery gets really low, the hoop automatically turns off. And that is a safety mechanism that is built into the hoop because of the lithium-ion batteries. And so it's just a safety means for them to ensure that they're not doing anything that they shouldn't be. So if your hoop turns off, it's a response to you that, hey, the battery needs to be charged. So get it on the charger. The wall unit is usually the fastest means of charging the hoop, and it takes about 6 to 8 hours total to charge. And you'll see a little red light. Let me give you a sample of this. Let's see here. Charging my hoop here. So you'll see this little red light here, and that's indicating that it's charging, and it will turn completely green when it's fully charged. Now there's a second green light there you'll see that's going to be there all the time, and that's just the battery indicator light saying, like, yes, the hoop is getting power. So that's a constant. It will always be there. Okay? All right. And I wanted to let you know, because we have had a few questions from people asking if you can charge your hoop in your car. And the answer is yes, absolutely. If you have the car charger that has the USB outlet, you can absolutely charge your hoop in the car. And it should be pretty similar to the wall outlet charging time. But just a reminder not to keep your hoop in a very hot car for hours at a time, as there are sensitive components and it's plastic. So that's just something to keep in mind. Okay. Oh, another thing we wanted to talk about with the charging is because of the lithium-ion batteries, the way that they charge is they charge very slow at the beginning of the charge session, and then in the middle of the charge session, they charge a lot faster. And at the very end of the charge session, they slow down again, which is also a safety precaution for the lithium-ion batteries. So if your hoop is completely dead and you only charge it for a little bit of time, you're not going to get very far into the charging process. Okay? So that's why we like you to fully charge the hoop when you need to. Okay, so we're going to switch over to Jeremiah now, who's our SpinFX engineer, and he's going to talk to you guys about connecting to your computer. Okay, let's see. All right, Jeremiah, you're on.
All right. Hello, everybody. Wanted to talk to you just a little bit about connecting your hoop to your computer and how you would go about adding, removing files, or tweaking the settings file. I'm going to switch over to share my desktop so you can see what I'm doing. When you want to connect to your computer, the first thing you're going to need to do is turn your hoop on and then plug it in to one of your USB ports using the cable we provided. And, all right, can you all see my, well, yes, okay. So when you first plug it in, it might take a few minutes to recognize it and show up as a removable drive. You can see that here. It'll show up with the name Phoenix, and then within that you'll see a list of all your pattern files. So all the bitmaps and your settings file, which will be named settings.cfg. The average pattern size is typically between like 2K and 30K. So that's just something to keep in mind when you're making patterns. If you have a really large file, it'll take a long time to load, and you'll see a long delay before it switches to that pattern. Deleting files is really simple. All you have to do is select the ones you want to delete, press delete, and they're gone. Adding files is just as easy. Select files that you want to copy to your hoop and drag and drop over to the device. Sometimes you'll get a prompt about whether or not you want to copy files without properties. Just hit yes. It doesn't matter. The only types of patterns that are supported are bitmap images. So GIF, JPEG, PNGs will not work. Also, bitmaps have to be formatted as 24 bit per pixel bitmaps. So if your computer doesn't recognize your hoop right away, the very first thing to do is to try unplugging it and plugging it back in. More often than not, just doing that will get it working. Next thing to do, if that doesn't fix it, is to try resetting the hoop, either by holding the power button down for 5 seconds or more and letting it reboot, or you can use the internal reset button. That's located on the end of the circuit board inside the connector. And then last but not least, well, actually, next try a different cable, because sometimes we've seen bad cables and that can really throw people for a loop. Then if that doesn't work, you can also try a different USB port on your computer. And then last but not least, try restarting your computer. I know my computer sometimes gets into a state where it just doesn't want to recognize new USB devices. So I'm going to open up the settings CFG file and just show you some of the common things you might want to change. All right, so one of the top items in this file is the brightness. The range for that is between 0 and 255, 0 being almost all the way off, and 255 being the brightest. Most of the things in this file you really don't need to worry about. Brightness is a big one. Autoplay is another one. So autoplay can be either 0 or 1, meaning off or on. And directly below that is the autoplay delay. So that sets how much time elapses before it automatically switches to the next pattern. This line right here, it is set to 30,000. This is in milliseconds. So what that equals is 30 seconds. So just add 3 zeros to however many seconds you want. Going down the list, the map commands are what you would use to change the functions of the remote. I'm not going to get into details about that here, but I just wanted to point that out. Then finally, the last line in the file should be your play command. That tells the hoop what pattern to start on when it starts up. And it's just play followed by a space and then the name of the file you want it to start on. Sometimes you can, if you change that line and you restart the hoop, it may flash red. That usually means it can't find the file that you specified. So either there's a typo, or the file didn't get copied, or some other reason that that file is just not there and it couldn't load it. So if you see that flashing red, just double check that the file exists and that it's spelled correctly. Another thing that can be kind of confusing is there's only a limit of about 110 files that can be within the root directory of the hoop at any one time. So if you go over that, you'll start getting errors when you try to copy files. If there's not enough space, or it couldn't copy the file for some other reason. So if you hit that limit, you're going to have to remove some files before you can copy new files over. Now I'm going to switch over to the Android app and walk you through how that works. Okay, so first thing I'm going to show you is how to pair with your hoop. All right, to connect to your hoop for the first time, or anytime you open the app, you'd hit your menu button and going a little bit slow. And then in the lower left corner, you'd select Connect to a Toy. And then a little dialog will pop up and ask you which device you want to connect to. None of these are actually the ones that I want to connect to, so I'm going to scan for a new device. All right, now my test hoop is named Test 1. Yours will be named Phoenix. So I'm going to select that. And then you'll get a pop-up asking about a pairing request. The pin for this is set to 0000 by default. Enter that, then hit OK. And then it'll connect to the hoop. And first thing it does when it connects to a hoop is it shows you a list of all the files that are located on it. And from that list, you can and it'll start playing that pattern. That's a really simple way to jump to a specific pattern that you want to use. The second tab is more of an advanced remote. It has all the functions of your regular IR remote, but there's a couple extra. Some of them aren't actually used, or they're not really useful, but we'll just go over them. The top button is power, then your next row is brightness, it's the same as the volume up and volume down. Previous pattern, next pattern, that's pretty self-explanatory. Previous folder, next folder. If you have subfolders on your hoop, you can actually navigate into those, but that's a fairly advanced feature that I don't know of anybody that actually uses it. Autoplay on and off. Accelerometer on and off, those aren't used. Also, chase plus and minus they don't have a lot of use, so you can ignore them. All that does is automatically will shift a pattern to the left or right with each frame. Then you have your save settings and load settings to load defaults. And finally, the button on the bottom is refresh info. So for some reason, your list of patterns didn't load over on this tab. You can click refresh info and it'll refresh that list. Then the third tab is all that is a log. It's just for diagnosing problems. You're never going to need to use it for anything. It just shows communications between the app and the hoop. And that's it for the Android app. Lauren, you want to switch back to you now? Or do I have to do that?
All right, Jeremiah, thank you.
Welcome.
Okay, so I'm going to go into a couple more tips and tricks for everyone. The first thing, a few people actually weren't really sure if this was an issue or not, is when they were plugging their hoop into their computer and the hoop goes into its programming mode, which is the cycling of the red, blue, and green LEDs, they're seeing some sparkles as well. And this is a completely normal function of the hoop. So that is the hoop in programming mode, and you can then make all of your changes Jeremiah was just talking about, adding, deleting patterns, all of that good stuff. There's another thing that you might see every once in a while that is a 30-second delay. If you change the settings of the hoop and then you go to turn it back on, sometimes it'll take about 30 seconds just to load itself and the new settings. And then after you wait for about 30 seconds, you'll see a single green LED come on the LED strip. That will tell you that, okay, it's ready to go, and then it's going to turn on to your hoop, to whatever your first pattern is, with your new settings ready to rock. Okay? Okay, and then there's another trick. We have two different ways to reset the hoop. in case it ever needs a little jump, just like sometimes you need to restart a computer. Every once in a while, this is what you may need to do. And the first thing is you can hold the power button down for 10 seconds. And you will see a single green LED turn on right near the power button. And that's saying OK. And then after that lights up, the hoop will turn on and resume its normal settings as well. If for some reason that doesn't do the trick, what you can do is actually open up the hoop, like I'm going to do real quick. And I'm going to show you the side of the hoop that has the circuit board where the power and USB are. If you look inside the tubing there, you'll see on the end of the circuit board there's a small gray button. And then what you would do is take a small blunt object, nothing sharp, and all you're going to do is put it in there, and you're going to hit it once. See how this green light just came on? And then the hoop resumed its setting. So that's a restart for you if you ever need it. And shut this off here. Okay. And then the other thing I want to talk about is the brightness. So we actually just recently did a firmware update for the brightness, because these hoops are very, very bright. In fact, probably brighter than many or all of the hoops before them. So we actually created this new feature that's an auto brightness adjust that will automatically adjust the brightness of certain patterns, and that will help extend battery life and make them display absolutely perfectly. So all the new hoops are shipping with that loaded onto them. For previous hoops, what we will do is a firmware update for it, meaning basically we send out a link to you, and this firmware update, you connect your hoop to your PC, you download the new firmware, it registers to your hoop, and that's the way you can get new features. So from time to time, as we make advancements or want to add new features for you guys or make any changes, we can do it remotely to you guys directly just by sending you an email with a link to the firmware update, and you can make that update at home so your hoop stays completely current and up to date, which is a really awesome feature. Really cool that we can do that. Don't have to send it back in or anything. Also wanted to mention to you guys, if you could go to our website at spin-fx.com, we have a forum that is under the community section, and you can actually join and log in and register an account, and you can post questions there and find answers as well. So if you have a question, you're not sure about it, you can post there, and then the community can help answer for you. For other questions you may have too, we have an FAQ section, and we have a troubleshooting section of our website on the Phoenix product page if you scroll down. And we'll be constantly adding to that as different questions come in. So we'll try to keep that as up to date as possible for you guys. And let's see here. I think it's time to open up to a question we have here from you guys. Okay, so our first question here is, does the hoop cycle alphabetically through the file names? So I'm going to select that question real quick. Okay. So the hoop does cycle alphabetically if it's in alpha mode, which is in your settings file. So that's what it's automatically, like the factory settings are set in alphabetical mode. You can also put it on a random mode or sort mode as well. What I personally do sometimes is if I have 10 different patterns and I know exactly what order I want them to go in, I'll put a 1 through 10 at the beginning of the pattern name, and that way I'm like, okay, I know this one's going to go first, and that's something I do especially like for my performances and in my scripting features, and we'll go into more detail about all of that good stuff in the next webinar. And let's see, Jeremiah, do you want to add anything to that question?
No, you pretty much covered that.
Okay.
Thanks.
Awesome. So we have one more question for you, Jeremiah. How many amps is the hoop charger? They have a dual port charger they want to use in their car.
The charger that comes with the hoop there's two ports. One's 1 amp port and the other one's a 2 amp port. But the hoop only charges at a max of 750 milliamps. So that's not a lot. Most chargers will be able to handle that. And even if it can't, it'll just charge slower than normal.
Okay, cool, thanks. Let's see here. If anybody else has any questions they want to hop into the Q&A box, feel free to do so now. We'll give it a second there. And while I'm seeing if any other questions pop up, I want to tell everyone about next week's webinar. So next Wednesday, hop over to me here. Next Wednesday, we're going to do a webinar on pattern making, and we're going to go over the scripting feature and choreo mode. So that will be extremely helpful for all you guys out there that want to get into making your own patterns, which is really fun and can be super addicting. So yeah, I've definitely just done entire days and gotten lost in the world of Phoenix graphics. It's really fun. And yeah, and the scripting and the choreo mode features are really great for like performers, and if you want to do choreography and have the patterns going to music. So there could be, you know, a drop in the song and you want the hoop to change patterns at that exact second. We will teach you how to do that. So it's a pretty powerful thing to be up on stage and the audience goes crazy. Okay. So we have another question here. Will the hoop work with my Mac? Yes, absolutely. The hoop works with Mac or PC computer. So either one, yeah, just plug in. It's pretty much the same. So you just saw Jeremiah working on a PC, but it shows up in the same way on your Mac computer. My main computer is a Mac, and I use it with the hoop almost every day. Okay. All right. So, any other questions from you guys? What you can also do is post questions in the comments on the YouTube page below the video, which will be on our YouTube page now for good after this session is over. So feel free to post your questions there, or you can always email us at support@spin-fx.com, and we'll be happy to answer your questions for you and then put them up on our site so that everybody else can hear the answers to your good questions too. Okay. Let's see here. Any other questions we get? Let's see if any more popped up here. All right. I think that's it for now. So we hope to see you next week, next Wednesday, same time, 5 p.m. That's Pacific time, and 8 p.m. Eastern time. Thank you guys for joining us, and we're really excited to get all those hoops out there around the world shining bright, and we're really excited to see what you do with them, what graphics you create, and we would love for you to share your photos and videos with us. You can find us on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and you can find all the links on our website, spin-fx.com. We also created a Phoenix Hoop Stars photo album on our Facebook page, and that's for us to share all of your awesome images that you create. And so you can always submit those to us if you want to get on there, because you guys are Phoenix Hoop Stars, and it's just going to grow and grow, and we're really excited to have you be a part of this. And yeah, we thank you so much for everything and your support and for being awesome. So we'll see you next time. Have a great night, guys. Bye.